Energy is the currency of creation. It is what fuels your thoughts, your emotions, and the reality you live in. But here's the truth. Most people are leaking their energy into places that do not serve them, keeping them trapped in the same cycles of struggle, stress, and frustration. The mind is like a power station, generating energy with every thought and emotion. The problem is, when that energy is misdirected, it leads to exhaustion rather than transformation. Today I want to show you 5 places where you must stop wasting your energy so you can redirect it towards something powerful, something life-changing. Energy is the foundation of everything we experience in life. The way we think, feel, and act is deeply influenced by the environments we immerse ourselves in and the people we surround ourselves with. Every interaction has an energetic exchange. And whether we realize it or not, the people in our lives either contribute to our expansion or keep us in a cycle of stagnation. Negative people and toxic relationships are among the greatest drains on personal energy, often depleting us mentally, emotionally, and even physically before we become fully aware of the impact. When you constantly engage with individuals who bring negativity into your space, your body begins to respond to the energy they project. The mind and body operate in harmony, and when we interact with toxic influences, our chemistry shifts. Stress hormones like cortisol rise, putting us into a heightened state of alertness, survival, or even defensiveness. Over time, this continual exposure rewires the brain, making negativity feel familiar and even comfortable. The subconscious mind, programmed by repetition, begins to accept these energy-draining interactions as normal, keeping us locked in cycles of emotional exhaustion. Negativity is contagious. Just as a virus spreads from person to person, low vibrational energy does the same. When you're in constant proximity to individuals who complain, criticize, or dwell on problems rather than solutions, your own mindset begins to mirror theirs. And then the brain has something called mirror neurons, which make us naturally inclined to reflect the emotions and attitudes of those around us. This is why after spending time with someone who is pessimistic or angry, you might find yourself feeling more irritable or drained without even knowing why. Your body absorbs the emotional frequency of your environment. And if that environment is filled with toxicity, you will struggle to maintain a state of peace, creativity, and growth. One of the greatest dangers of toxic relationships is that they keep you emotionally addicted to patterns that do not serve your higher self. People who constantly complain, gossip, or manipulate often trigger a chemical response in your brain, causing a cycle of reactivity. You may feel the need to defend yourself, argue, or constantly seek approval. Each of these responses reinforces neural pathways that keep you locked in an emotional loop. Instead of using energy to create, evolve, and expand, you use it to survive. And survival mode is not where transformation happens. The longer you stay engaged in toxic energy, the more your nervous system normalizes stress, making it difficult to access states of clarity, intuition, and inspiration. The fear of letting go keeps people trapped in relationships that drain them. There is a deep-seated belief that cutting ties with certain individuals is unkind or selfish. But true self-mastery requires discernment. Not everyone is meant to walk with you on the path of transformation. Some people are so deeply conditioned by their own negative programming that they resist change, and in doing so, they unconsciously resist allowing you to change as well. Growth makes certain relationships uncomfortable. When you begin to shift, elevate your mindset, and break free from limiting patterns, you will notice that some individuals will attempt to pull you back into their familiar version of you. They may guilt you, challenge you, or subtly discourage you from evolving, not because they wish to harm you, but because your transformation forces them to confront their own stagnation. The key to protecting your energy is becoming deeply aware of the way you feel after every interaction. Pay attention to your body's response. Do you feel uplifted, inspired, and at peace? Or do you feel drained, anxious, and emotionally exhausted? The body holds wisdom beyond what the conscious mind can perceive, and it will always communicate whether an environment is supportive or depleting. When you recognize that a relationship consistently leaves you feeling depleted, it is time to reevaluate the energetic exchange. Boundaries become essential in maintaining your personal energy. Many people struggle with setting firm boundaries because they associate them with rejection or conflict. But boundaries are not about pushing people away. They are about honoring your own energy and choosing where you invest it. When you allow yourself to be constantly accessible to people who drain you, you are unconsciously prioritizing their energy over your own. Learning to say no without guilt is an act of self-respect. It is a declaration that your energy is sacred and should only be shared with those who contribute to your growth, expansion, and well-being. Detaching from toxic relationships does not mean you have to hold resentment or anger toward those individuals. In fact, the more you cultivate a state of inner peace, the easier it becomes to release others with love. You do not have to fight negative energy with more negativity. Instead, you rise above it by choosing not to engage. Energy flows where attention goes, and the less energy you give to toxicity, the weaker its hold over you becomes. Letting go is not an act of punishment toward another person. It is an act of liberation for yourself. When you start removing yourself from environments that do not align with your highest self, you create space for new energy to enter your life. The people who truly resonate with your vision, purpose, and evolution will naturally gravitate toward you. Surrounding yourself with those who inspire, uplift, and challenge you in healthy ways elevates your frequency, allowing you to step into greater levels of clarity, joy, and fulfillment. True transformation happens when you take ownership of where your energy is going and decide to invest it only in what strengthens your path forward. The past is a powerful force, shaping our identities, beliefs, and emotions. For many people, it becomes an anchor, keeping them tied to experiences that no longer serve them. Every thought we entertain about the past carries an energetic weight, and the more we dwell on past regrets, failures, or traumas, the more we invest our energy into recreating the same patterns in our lives. The mind does not differentiate between past and present when it comes to emotions. When we recall painful memories, we are not just thinking about them, we are reliving them. The body responds by producing the same chemical reactions, activating the same stress hormones, and keeping us in a cycle of emotional reactivity. This is why so many people feel stuck, unable to move forward, even when they desperately want to. They are living in a loop where their energy is trapped in past events rather than being available for the creation of a new future. Unresolved experiences create emotional imprints that influence our present decisions and behaviors. If a person was betrayed in the past, they may carry the energy of distrust into new relationships. If they experience failure, they might develop a fear of taking risks. These subconscious programs dictate how we perceive reality, making it difficult to step into new opportunities without the weight of old fears and doubts. The past, if not consciously processed and released, controls the trajectory of our lives. Every day, people wake up and unknowingly reaffirm the same emotional states they have been living in for years. They replay arguments, relive disappointments, and reinforce limiting beliefs. This repetition conditions the brain to expect the same outcomes, keeping them energetically bound to an old version of themselves. One of the most significant ways the past drains energy is through regret. People look back at decisions they made and wish they had acted differently. They dwell on missed opportunities, mistakes, or things they cannot change, pouring their energy into something that no longer exists. Regret is one of the lowest vibrational states a person can experience because it is rooted in powerlessness. It keeps the mind fixated on what could have been instead of what can be. When energy is invested in the past, it cannot be used to create the future. The truth is, every experience, no matter how painful, carries wisdom. The only way to transform regret into power is to extract the lesson and integrate it into the present moment. Instead of being a prisoner of the past, one must become a student of it. The lesson is what liberates, while the attachment is what enslaves. Painful memories are another way people keep themselves energetically trapped. Trauma, heartbreak, loss. These experiences leave deep emotional imprints. The problem arises when people continuously revisit them, reinforcing the emotions tied to those events. The nervous system adapts to familiar emotions, whether they are positive or negative. If a person spends years reliving past pain, their body begins to crave those emotions, not because they are beneficial, but because they are familiar. This is why many people unconsciously recreate the same situations over and over again. They attract relationships that mirror past wounds, experience setbacks that confirm their limiting beliefs, and struggle to break free from cycles they desperately want to escape. The mind and body become conditioned to expect suffering, and unless a conscious decision is made to redirect energy toward a new vision, the cycle continues indefinitely. Forgiveness is one of the most powerful tools for releasing the past, not for others, but for oneself. Holding on to resentment, anger, or blame keeps a person energetically tied to the very thing they want to escape. Forgiveness is not about justifying what happened. It is about freeing oneself from the emotional burden of carrying it. When people refuse to forgive, they remain emotionally invested in the event, replaying it in their minds and allowing it to shape their present state of being. The energy spent holding on to the past could be redirected toward healing, growth, and transformation. True freedom comes when one realizes that they have the power to let go, not because the past deserves to be forgotten, but because the future deserves to be created. The subconscious mind is programmed through repetition, and the more one focuses on the past, the more deeply ingrained those emotional patterns become. Breaking free requires a deliberate shift in focus. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" one must ask, "How can I use this experience to become stronger?" The shift from victimhood to empowerment is where transformation begins. It is not about denying what happened, but about choosing to no longer let it define who one is becoming. Energy must be reclaimed from the past and redirected toward a new vision, a new identity, and a new way of experiencing life. The moment one decides to stop feeding energy into past wounds and instead invests it in personal evolution, they step into their true power. Worry is one of the most significant drains on human energy. It keeps the mind in a constant state of agitation, cycling through endless possibilities of what could go wrong. People often believe that worrying is a form of preparation, that by anticipating the worst, they will somehow be better equipped to handle it. But in reality, worry does not prepare, it paralyzes. The mind, when caught in the grip of worry, shifts into survival mode, activating stress responses that were designed for immediate threats, not imagined future scenarios. The body reacts as if the worst case scenario is already happening, flooding the system with cortisol and adrenaline, disrupting sleep, focus, and overall well-being. Worry is not just a mental habit. It is a physiological state that keeps people trapped in a loop of stress and anxiety, unable to fully engage with the present moment. Worry is an attempt to control the uncontrollable. It is the mind's way of seeking certainty in a world that is inherently unpredictable. But no amount of mental effort can control the outcome of things beyond one's influence. The weather, the economy, other people's actions, unexpected challenges, these are all outside the realm of personal control. Yet many people spend countless hours consumed by thoughts of what might happen as if sheer mental energy could force reality into alignment with their fears. This obsession with control leads to exhaustion because it is an impossible task. The truth is, control is an illusion. Life is in a constant state of change, and resisting that reality only creates suffering. The more energy is invested in trying to control external circumstances, the less energy is available for responding powerfully to the present. People often confuse worry with responsibility, believing that if they do not worry about something, they are being careless or unprepared. But worry does not equate to action. In fact, excessive worry often leads to inaction, as the mind becomes overwhelmed by all the possible negative outcomes. True responsibility is about focusing on what can be influenced and letting go of what cannot. It is about making decisions from a place of clarity rather than fear. The energy that is spent on worry could be redirected toward productive actions, creative solutions, and personal growth. Worrying about an uncertain future does not change the future. It only robs the present of peace and power. Many people become trapped in cycles of worry because their minds have been conditioned to expect the worst. This conditioning often comes from past experiences, cultural narratives, or the influence of others who also live in a state of fear. The subconscious mind, which is programmed through repetition, becomes accustomed to patterns of anxiety, making worry feel automatic. The more one worries, the more the brain strengthens neural pathways that reinforce that habit. Over time, worry becomes an identity rather than just a thought pattern. People begin to define themselves as anxious individuals, as if worry is an inherent part of their nature rather than a learned behavior. But just as the brain can be conditioned into worry, it can also be reconditioned into peace. The key is awareness, recognizing when the mind is spiraling into unnecessary fear and consciously choosing to redirect that energy. Letting go of worry requires trust. It requires the willingness to surrender to the flow of life rather than trying to force it into a predetermined shape. Trusting does not mean being passive or ignoring challenges. It means understanding that there is a difference between preparation and obsession. It means acknowledging that some things are beyond control and making peace with that reality. Trust is not about knowing exactly how things will unfold, but about believing in one's ability to handle whatever comes. When trust replaces worry, energy is no longer wasted on fearful speculation, but is instead channeled into meaningful action. The mind will always seek certainty, but the greatest freedom comes from embracing uncertainty instead of resisting it. Life is not meant to be predictable. It is meant to be experienced in real time with full presence and awareness. When people stop trying to control every outcome, they open themselves to new possibilities that their fear-based minds could never have imagined. They create space for creativity, intuition, and opportunities that would have been missed if they were too preoccupied with worry. The most powerful shift happens when one realizes that worrying about what might go wrong does nothing to prevent it. It only ensures that they suffer in the present for a future that may never come to pass. True liberation begins when energy is reclaimed from worry and redirected toward the present moment, where real change and growth are possible. Seeking validation from others is one of the most subtle yet powerful ways people give away their energy. From an early age, many individuals are conditioned to seek approval, whether from parents, teachers, peers, or society at large. This conditioning creates a deep association between external acceptance and self-worth. The more a person relies on others to affirm their value, the more they place their happiness and emotional well-being in the hands of people who may never fully understand their journey. The need for validation becomes an invisible chain tying individuals to the expectations, opinions, and judgments of the world around them. Instead of living authentically, they begin adjusting their actions, words, and even beliefs to fit into a mold that is not their own. Over time, this habit drains energy as the mind becomes preoccupied with how others perceive them, rather than focusing on personal growth and fulfillment. When a person seeks validation, they are essentially outsourcing their sense of self to external sources. They wait for compliments to feel confident, for recognition to feel accomplished, for approval to feel worthy. The problem is that external validation is unpredictable and often fleeting. People's opinions change. Societal standards shift. And what is praised one moment can be criticized the next. Relying on external validation creates a fragile sense of self, one that rises and falls based on factors beyond one's control. The more one depends on others to define their worth, the less they trust their own intuition, instincts, and inner wisdom. This creates a cycle where self-esteem is built on unstable ground, making it easy to feel lost whenever validation is lacking. Another consequence of seeking validation is that it leads to a life driven by fear rather than authenticity. When a person's decisions are based on what will gain approval rather than what aligns with their true self, they end up sacrificing their own desires, goals, and unique perspectives. They avoid taking risks that might lead to criticism, suppress their real opinions to maintain harmony, and shape their identity to fit expectations. This not only creates emotional exhaustion, but also stifles creativity and personal growth. Living for approval means constantly walking on eggshells, trying to meet invisible and ever-changing standards, rather than boldly stepping into one's own power. It limits the ability to take bold action, to innovate, and to fully express the truth of who one is. One of the biggest illusions of seeking validation is the belief that once it is received, it will bring lasting fulfillment. But external approval is like a temporary high. It feels good in the moment, but quickly fades, leaving behind the need for more. This creates a dependency where individuals keep chasing validation, never feeling truly satisfied. The more they seek it, the more they reinforce the idea that their worth is something that must be earned rather than something inherent. This is why even those who achieve great success, fame, or social approval often still feel empty. If self-worth is built on validation, it will never feel complete because it was never internalized to begin with. Breaking free from the cycle of validation seeking requires a shift in perspective. Instead of looking outward for affirmation, individuals must learn to cultivate self-acceptance from within. This begins by recognizing where the need for approval originated, whether from childhood experiences, cultural conditioning, or past rejections. Awareness is the first step in reclaiming personal power. Once a person realizes how much energy they have spent trying to meet external expectations, they can consciously choose to redirect that energy toward their own growth and self-trust. The moment a person decides that they do not need others to validate their worth, they begin to take back control over their own identity. Self-determination is not about arrogance or isolation. It is about becoming the source of one's own confidence. It is about learning to affirm personal value without needing external reinforcement. This means celebrating achievements without waiting for applause, trusting decisions without needing approval, and embracing individuality without fearing rejection. It also means accepting that not everyone will understand or appreciate one's path, and that is okay. True self-worth comes from living in alignment with one's own values, passions, and purpose, rather than bending to fit the expectations of others. The greatest energy shift happens when one stops looking for permission to be themselves. When validation is no longer a requirement, freedom takes its place. There is no longer a need to prove anything to anyone, because self-acceptance becomes the foundation. This shift allows individuals to move through life with confidence, authenticity, and inner peace. Instead of being reactive to opinions, they become proactive, in shaping their own reality. Energy that was once spent worrying about approval is now available for creation, growth, and deep personal fulfillment. True power comes not from being liked by others, but from being deeply connected to oneself. In a world filled with constant stimulation, mindless distractions and addictions have become some of the greatest thieves of energy. People often underestimate how much time and mental space are consumed by activities that offer no real value. Social media, endless scrolling, binge watching, excessive gaming, and other habitual behaviors seem harmless in small doses, but over time, they drain focus, creativity, and personal growth. These distractions are designed to capture attention, pulling people away from their goals, purpose, and deeper awareness. The more a person engages in these mindless activities, the more their brain becomes wired to seek quick gratification instead of meaningful fulfillment. The result is a cycle of consumption that offers temporary relief, but ultimately leaves a sense of emptiness, wasted time, and a loss of personal power. Addictions, whether to substances, technology, or behaviors, function in a similar way by hijacking the brain's reward system. They create an artificial sense of pleasure or escape, reinforcing the desire to engage in them repeatedly. Over time, these habits become deeply ingrained, making it difficult to break free even when one consciously knows they are harmful. What begins as a harmless distraction can evolve into a dependency that shapes daily routines and mental patterns. The more one indulges in these behaviors, the more difficult it becomes to focus on long-term goals, relationships, and personal evolution. The brain, conditioned to seek immediate pleasure, resists the discomfort of discipline and growth. Instead of facing challenges or working towards something meaningful, it defaults to the easiest source of dopamine available. One of the most dangerous aspects of distractions and addictions is their ability to numb emotions. Many people turn to them not because they genuinely enjoy them, but because they offer an escape from stress, anxiety, or unresolved emotions. Instead of processing difficult feelings, they bury them under hours of entertainment, consumption, or compulsive habits. This avoidance does not solve problems. It only delays them, allowing emotional burdens to accumulate beneath the surface. The more one relies on distractions to escape reality, the less they develop the ability to handle life's challenges with clarity and resilience. Emotional intelligence weakens and personal growth stagnates. The cycle continues as each moment of avoidance reinforces the habit of seeking external stimulation rather than internal reflection. The modern world is designed to encourage distraction. Every app, platform, and form of digital entertainment is engineered to capture attention and keep users engaged for as long as possible. Notifications, algorithms, and infinite scrolling train the brain to seek constant input, reducing the ability to focus for extended periods. Studies have shown that attention spans are decreasing, making it harder for people to concentrate on deep work, meaningful conversations, or personal development. Instead of engaging in introspection, learning new skills, or working toward dreams, many people find themselves trapped in an endless loop of consumption. This passive engagement with life leads to a dulling of awareness, where days blend together without a sense of purpose or progress. Breaking free from distractions and addictions requires a conscious decision. To reclaim control over attention and energy, the first step is awareness, recognizing which habits are draining mental and emotional resources rather than contributing to growth. Many people do not realize how much time they lose to mindless activities until they begin tracking their behavior. Once identified, these habits can be replaced with intentional actions that align with personal goals and values. Small changes, such as limiting screen time, practicing mindfulness, or engaging in activities that require deep focus, can gradually rewire the brain to prioritize meaningful engagement over fleeting distractions. Discipline is essential in this process. The pull of easy pleasure and instant gratification will always exist, but true fulfillment comes from the ability to delay gratification in pursuit of something greater. The most successful and fulfilled individuals are those who have mastered their focus, choosing long-term growth over short-term comfort. Instead of allowing distractions to dictate their lives, they take intentional action toward their vision. They understand that every moment of attention is an investment, either fueling progress or reinforcing stagnation. This shift in mindset transforms the way one interacts with the world, leading to greater clarity, creativity, and personal empowerment. The ability to control where energy is directed determines the quality of life. When distractions are no longer the default, time becomes a powerful asset. Instead of passively consuming content, individuals can create, innovate, and contribute. Instead of escaping through addiction, they can face life with presence and strength. True transformation occurs when one recognizes that their greatest resource is their own attention. By reclaiming control over how it is spent, they unlock their full potential, no longer at the mercy of external influences, but fully engaged in the conscious creation of their future.